Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. So, a lot of stuff to talk about, and let's not waste any time and let's get down to business. There seems to be a lot of activity happening in the Middle East, a lot of plane movements. See the images you see on the screen right now. These are American refueling jets, which are used to refuel F-35s, F-18s. There's a lot of moving military parts, equipment, ships. There's a lot of activity going on in the Middle East, guys. The Americans are stopping Iranian Chinese ships and in international waters, mainly around India. I'm going to talk about India later on, guys, but mainly they are stopping these ships around India. They haven't got the guts to stop them near Iran or anywhere near the Gulf Coast. So they have to do it near India, and they know India will say nothing and do nothing. In fact, India is probably providing the intelligence for American ships to do their piracy. Anyway, it does look like something is happening. China has released a statement saying that they want all Chinese citizens to leave Iran. So maybe they've heard something. Maybe they've heard, you know, something behind the scenes that might happen. My belief is that Israel and United States are not going to stop until Iran is destroyed. They are not going to stop, guys, and they're going to use whatever they can in their arsenal to stop Iran becoming powerful, stop Iran taking over the Hormuz Strait, stop Iran becoming rich. They're going to do everything in their power for that not to happen. Because if Iran becomes a superpower in the region, then it's over for Israel and it's over for America's influence in the Middle East. They're going to have to leave all their American bases behind. It's going to be the end of the petrodollar. It's going to be end of their military base in Israel, and and that's it. The Americans are not going to have it. They're not going to allow that to happen. Because if the dollar falls, if America loses all the influence in the Middle East, the Middle Eastern countries, GCCs, will start, um, you know, charging oil with other currencies, namely the Chinese yuan, and they could charge it with different other currencies as well, and that would bring on the fall of the dollar, and eventually those dollars will head back to the United States, cause huge hyperinflation. There's going to be riots in the streets. All chaos is going to happen all across the United States. There could be civil war. So they're not going to allow all of that to happen. So that's why they're not going to allow Iran to become powerful. They're not going to allow Iran to win. And they're going to do everything they can to stop it. That's what I believe anyway. I could be wrong. Unless they come to some sort of deal, the deal between the two parties are so far away from each other, guys. Israel is not going to allow any deal to take place. Even if Israel does allow a deal to take place, they will break it within 6 months or a year. It doesn't really matter to Israel or Trump. If you make a deal with them, they'll just break it tomorrow. They'll wake up, they'll feel in a bad mood, and they'll just tear it up. So what does Iran need to do? They need to keep control of the Strait of Hormuz. They need to make as much money as they can. They need to get stronger. They need to obviously buy more weapons from China, from Russia. They need more jets, anti-aircraft guns. There's a lot of stuff they can improve on. They obviously need a lot more subs and undersea drones and things like that to control the strait. So they'll need a lot of that. And the main thing that Iran needs is a nuke, guys. That's the only way they can protect themselves. That's the only way these warmongers are going to stop bullying them. So they need a nuke as soon as possible. And I know for a fact they have the capability to build one. I think they should just go ahead and build one. If they don't have the capability, they need to ask help from China, Russia, North Korea, and I'm sure they will help Iran because they understand Iran for it to become a superpower and for it to be stop being attacked by Israel and America. Iran needs to have nukes to defend itself. And you can see the rhetoric that Trump has been saying he's going to wipe out the Iranian civilization and things like that. So he's obviously hinting at dropping a nuke. And there's stories coming out from the White House where Trump wanted the nuclear codes from his general or chief of staff and got refused. So they are thinking about it, guys. They are definitely thinking about it. And even if United States don't drop a bomb, Israel would. And everybody knows Israel, they've got a mind of its own. They don't listen to Trump. They don't listen to the United States. They just do whatever the hell they want. And if it means they will drop a bomb, a nuclear bomb on Iran, they will do it. And they will still have American backing. There's no doubt about that. So yeah, it could be Israel that drops it, could be Trump that does it himself, who knows? But either way, Iran needs to arm itself with a nuke, and they need to do it whichever way they can. And now is the time to do it. So if this war starts again, I think it's gonna be a failure for Americans, for Israelis again, because they don't have enough time to build their defenses all over again because they have destroyed half or maybe 60-70% of Patriot missiles, THAAD systems, and to bring all of these missiles back again, it's going to take them years, guys, years of work because they don't have huge factories where they can churn these out in weeks. We're talking years here. And plus, China's obviously restricting them with rare earths. The price of silver's gone through the roof. The price of inflation's gone through the roof. So it's going to be very, very expensive for them to replenish all of that in a couple of years. So if they start a war with Iran again, you can guarantee rather than 67, 70% gone, it's going to be 100% gone within a few weeks. I guarantee it. And there's no chance of them winning in Iran either because they've been fighting in Iran 50 days now, bombing Iran every single day for 40 or 50 days. And Iran survived. They have not had a regime change. And the people are all, behind the government. The government hasn't collapsed. There hasn't been any major um, destruction of Iran. Everything they've destroyed, Iran is pretty much rebuilding them. Like they're rebuilding all the bridges, all the airports. They're doing it themselves. And I think it's the Americans and the Israelis who have lost more because the Americans have lost pretty much all of their military bases around the Middle East, in all the GCC countries. And it's going to take them years to get it back to how it was. If the GCC countries allow it back, allow the Americans back in again, I doubt if they would. And Iran from here is just going to get stronger. They have learned a lot from their experience and they know what their weaknesses are. And I'm sure they will be working on their weaknesses with their partners in Russia and China. So Trump right now is not very happy with China. I just heard him place some sanctions on China. I think it's coming up to my next story actually. I'll talk about that in a bit. Yeah, so this one. So Trump has basically put some sanctions on China, and and I believe China should retaliate over the next few days. Trump basically put sanctions on Chinese companies for trading oil with Iran. He's also mentioned China in a tweet as well, and I really want to laugh about this, guys, but the tweet was about mainly about India. So he called India a hellhole, And the funny thing is, yeah, he did like he wrote a big essay, and he was slamming India, he was slamming China, he was saying that China's taking American jobs and stuff. But he didn't call China a hellhole. He only called India a hellhole. But the funny thing is, I've been looking at a lot of Indian accounts and a lot of Indian channels, and they're all saying just to make themselves, just to make themselves feel better. They're all saying that Trump is calling China a hellhole. I said, no, man. Can you believe this? Can you believe this, guys? Indians, just to make themselves feel better, they're all reporting that, basically they're calling, Trump is basically calling China a hellhole. All of them are reporting it. They also report that, that he called India a hellhole, but they're also saying that Trump is calling China a hellhole. No, guys, he only called one country a hellhole, and that's India. And that's, if you want to verify it, you can verify it from his tweet. He only calls India a hellhole. The only time he mentioned China is because he said China and India are taking huge amounts of jobs from tech companies in America, and he doesn't like that. But he called India a hellhole. That is 100%. So it's so funny watching all these Indians basically online squirming, saying, "Oh, how can he called India and China a hellhole?" No, guys, it's only India he called hellhole, and he's right. I have to agree with him. I think most people in the world will agree with him, including Indians will agree with him, that India is a hellhole. It's an absolute hellhole, guys, and it's getting worse every single day. Every time I look at India, things just seem to get worse and worse and worse. Because the inflation is going up in India because, oil prices are going up, gas prices are going up, and ordinary Indians are suffering because of it. The inflations are getting too high, the rupee is falling down. You just have to look at the stats. The value of the rupee against the dollar is going down almost on a daily basis. And what does that mean? It means that if the rupee goes down, the value of imports of energy like oil and gas is going to go up because you need to pay more for that, for that barrel of oil or gas. So this is really, really bad news for India, and this is why inflation's out of control in India, and they've got 1.4 billion mouths to feed. How are they going to do that? How are they going to make everyone happy? They're not. And I've seen images of people rioting in, I think, is it Mirapur or Mirapur or some place? It's the northwestern parts of India, close to China, actually. And also, there's other riots in other places in India as well. So this is just a start. It's going to get worse the longer this blockade by America is happening, because there is a blockade by America as well. It's not just the Iranians who have blocked the Strait of Hormuz. The Americans have basically blocked everything. Any ships that go through the Hormuz who have paid in Chinese yuan are getting stopped by the Americans, including Indian ships. So India is getting absolutely humiliated by Trump, by the way. You know, if you look at the history between India and United States, India has basically gone on their knees and given Trump everything. Modi has literally gone on his knees and he basically gave himself to Trump on his knees, kissing whatever body part of Trump wants him to kiss. And he has been an absolute lapdog to Trump. He has, when Trump asked Modi to stop buying Russian oil, he stopped buying Russian oil. When Trump asked Modi to stop buying Iranian oil, he stopped buying Iranian oil. When Trump stopped Modi from investing in Iranian ports like Chabahar, he did that. When he asked Modi to stop buying Russian military units, he stopped it. Basically he's listened to every single word and command coming out of Trump. And if they need to buy Russian gas or oil, they need permission from the United States. So, so what does this slavery? If you become a vassal state to the United States, what do you get as a benefit? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You just get humiliated. And this is what's happening to India right now. They're being absolutely humiliated. They've been hit by a 50% tariff as well. And I think that got negotiated down recently. But still, India has the highest tariff in the world, higher than China and higher than any country in the world. India has the highest tariffs from America, from Trump. And that's the price for being a vassal state to the United States. And those tariffs have completely destroyed India's economy. They can't trade with the United States anymore. They can't trade via the Middle East anymore because that's blocked. So they cannot sell to Europe. So their main trade route is basically completely gone. Their future trade routes are completely gone. That's going to go via, Saudi Arabia and Israel. That's gone completely dead in the water. So India is truly messed up, and all because Modi decided to rub his body up against Netanyahu, literally like a dog. When you have a really horny dog, and whenever the dog sees you, he starts rubbing himself against your leg. That's Modi doing that to Netanyahu. And where has that got him, guys? Where has that got him exactly? What has that done for India? Nothing. It's given nothing but pain to India. If India was actually neutral to all of this, if they were neutral, then maybe, yeah, they could have had the best of both worlds. They could have had Iranian oil, they could have had, the Strait of Hormuz opening for India, but no, they decided to go completely, shoulder to shoulder, face to face, body to body with Israel one day before an attack. I mean, what kind of diplomacy is this, guys? Have you ever heard of any such diplomacy where a leader goes to Israel one day before they attack Iran and expects Iran to, you know, open their arms for India? No way. That's never going to happen now. India has ruined, generations of, goodwill against Iranians. I think India and Iran have got very, very old civilizations dating back 5,000 years. And most of that time, they've had good relations. And Modi just destroyed it within one day. Unbelievable, guys, unbelievable. Why doesn't India go to Israel for oil? Oh, hang on, I forgot. Israel doesn't have oil. So what was the point of destroying their relationship with Iran if Israel cannot provide you the oil? Just makes no sense. Complete failure of diplomacy. Absolute failure, guys. So anyway, the Indians are not very happy with Trump calling them a hellhole. And I've seen this Indian channel. There's a famous Indian guy who's, I don't like him very much, but he's a very loud mouth. He talks a lot. He's always screaming and shouting. He's a presenter basically. He makes Palki Sharma looks like a child compared to him. But he's always shouting at his guests. He's always talking nonsense. He's always swearing and shouting. He's talking over his guests. He doesn't let people talk. And you know who I'm talking about, this Indian presenter. Yeah, I've seen some of his programs today, and I just end up laughing. He's literally calling Trump all sorts of names. I just found it so funny because the same guy used to love Trump a few months ago. He was a major Trump supporter, but now, obviously, tables have turned. But yeah, it's funny watching the Indians absolutely berserk, bonkers with Trump's tweets. And the same Indians used to they put a shrine of Trump. When Trump was voted in, I saw a lot of Indian channels where Indians were putting up a shrine of Trump and they were worshipping him and they were treating him like some sort of god. All of that is gone now. It's quite hilarious, to be honest. So there's a story about Indonesia. Also, guys, I'm not having a go at Indonesian people, by the way, because I have a lot of good listeners listening from Indonesia, and some of them are my good friends and stuff. So I've got nothing against Indonesian people. It's the government. It's the new government who have gone completely pro-West. This new guy, he seems to be a complete puppet of West. I started raising some red flags when the Indonesian guy joined Trump's uh, peace thing in Palestine. I was thinking, why did he join that Palestinian peace program with Trump? Because end of the day, all the money they make is not going to Palestine. It's just basically lining up Trump's pockets. So that immediately gave me a red line, just to think, why is Indonesia joining? And then suddenly one thing after another, then now they like want to open up their skies to the American ships, and now they're talking about charging ships in the strait. He just seems like he's some sort of puppet of the West, and he's looking to take the country. He's looking to destroy the country, and a bit like Milei has done to Argentina. And and I bet he's probably selling off all these assets and stuff to the West as well. But I don't know enough about Indonesia to know what kind of job he's done. But from an outsider, it doesn't look like he's very. He doesn't look like he's very Indonesia first. I think he's pretty much pro-West by the looks of it. Anyway, let's move on. So a lot of stuff has happened with China and America over the last 24 hours. So let's go through the list. So Xi Jinping basically came on TV on CCTV 13, and he publicly demanded US and Israel to be disarmed of nuclear weapons. Mainly because the Chinese are not very happy with Trump saying that he wants to destroy Iranian civilization and things like that, and there's stories coming out that Trump wanted the nuclear codes, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening behind the scenes which tells us that they are looking to use nuclear weapons. Either America will or Israel will, and that's a big major red flag for the China and for the Chinese. And this is why Xi Jinping came on TV to say it. They are not going to stand for it. No country should use nuclear weapons. I think every country should just get rid of its nukes, because you know all it takes is one nuke, and then suddenly we're talking about world war, and if other countries will start retaliating with their own nukes, and then all the countries will start using nukes. And not all the countries, the ones that have nukes, they'll start throwing at each other. That's just going to be the end of the world, guys, and nobody wants that. So these destructive weapons just need to go, especially from countries like Israel and America. America's the only country that's used nukes in the past, so they shouldn't be trusted with it, and neither should Israel. Israel is not signed to the NPT, Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, and they should be completely disarmed, basically. So China says they're going to continue selling weapons to Iran as well. China is actively buying Iranian oil, and America knows this, and they have also been trying to stop these ships America has as well, causing all sorts of piracy. And the latest treasury data shows that China has been dumping more bonds, which is not surprising. And so they've dumped more than half of their bonds compared to 2008. After the 2008 financial crash, China bought a lot of American treasury bonds, which helped the markets to recover very quickly. So all the bonds that they bought since 2008 have all been sold by China. Almost like, I think at one point China had 1.2 trillion, and now it's gone down to 680 or something. So it's gone down by half almost. If you include Hong Kong and also, islands like Taiwan and stuff like that, then obviously it's a lot more. But even Hong Kong is starting to sell its bonds as well, American treasury bonds. Satellite photos show largest Chinese nuclear expansion in decades in Sichuan. Now, I'm not sure about that, but that's what they say. Let them believe it. Trump's upcoming Beijing visit is now officially walking into a trap nobody is in Washington seems to understand. I don't know if that trip is still happening, guys. China hasn't confirmed it, and I don't think Trump will go to Beijing because he's got no cards. I mean, what's he gonna talk to China about? Oh, look, I won the war in Iran. Is that what he's gonna say? He'll say, I won the war in Iran. I control the strait. You give me money, otherwise, no strait for you. Is that what Trump is gonna say when he goes to China? I don't think China should even allow him to come in. I mean, this guy is very, very unstable. And he's actively talking about having a war with China. He's placing sanctions on China because he said, he's planning on the big one. And he obviously mentioned China because he said, oh, we're getting along with them fine now, but, we're still planning for the big one with China. That's what he said in his own words. And he wants NATO to help him with that war as well. Well, good luck to you. I think Iran has showed that having 800 military bases around your country is not really an advantage because China knows exactly where each of these military bases are, in which country, and they can pinpoint accuracy, hit each and every one of these bases with the hypersonic missiles, with drones. Within a day, all of these military bases in America will be gone, absolutely gone. And they can overcome any defenses. Iran has showed that you can throw quite a few of these dummy missiles at once, maybe 100 or 200 of these dummy missiles, and take out all the expensive THAAD missiles and Patriot missiles. And after all of them are gone, then you can start throwing in the real missiles, the hypersonics, and things like that, and they will have no answers. They will have no answer whatsoever. So these military bases in America, South Korea, Philippines, Australia, Japan, they'll be all gone within a day, maybe 2 days, 3 days max. China knows exactly where each and every one of them are, and it'll be no problem taking them out. And America doesn't have any defenses in Asia anyway. They've all gone to Israel. They moved all the THAAD missiles from Korea, Philippines and Japan. They've moved it all in the Middle East. So these countries, the American military bases are completely defenseless, absolutely defenseless. Okay, guys, so let's move to the next story. So Finland is acting like a superpower, by the way. Okay, we'll talk about that at the end. So Finland is talking like a superpower. They're talking like Lithuania did a few years ago. So Finland has recently said that they have veto power in Europe, which means that they can veto any trade agreements between Europe and China, and China and basically Finland has said that China needs to cut links with Russia for them to have any links with Europe. So she's basically been threatening China, saying that they need to cut links with Russia, and that's the only way China's going to deal with Europe. Well, if you look at the history, you know, if you look at the history of China and Europe, Europe has always been bullying China from the beginning. They have always been bullying China. They've been placing sanctions on China. They have never ever had a good relationship with China. Apart from Germany with Merkel, rest of Europe did not. They have been very antagonistic, throughout history of China. And if you go further back in the history, you have countries like UK, France, Portugal, Germany, who have invaded China in the past. So they've never respected China. And, basically they're using Russia as an excuse. So if Russia's gone out the window, if Russia's gone out the picture, the Europeans would still be the Europeans, and they will still find ways to bully China whichever way they can. If they want to invade China, I'm sure they would love to. So they always had this inferior complex against the Chinese. They feel that the Europeans, they feel that they are better than the Chinese, and they cannot take China becoming better than them in terms of technology and society and everything that China is doing right now. They're absolutely dying of jealousy, but they can't do anything about it. So they're making an excuse saying, "Oh, you need to cut ties with Russia to have any sort of deal with us." Well, the deal with China and Europe was signed before the Ukraine war, by the way, and they still have not signed it. This was, I remember when I first started my YouTube channel, and this was 2020 or maybe earlier. This was way before COVID. And I remember, you know, I think this was before, just at the end of Trump's first term when Biden was coming in. And Trump did such a bad job with the Europeans, and the Europeans wanted to completely cut ties with the Americans and join forces with China at the time. So Merkel organized a trade deal with China and Europe, and they had a meeting. They were ready to sign. Everything was agreed. Then Biden got elected, and then Biden made a phone call to the Europeans, especially von der Leyen, saying, "You need to cancel this." And they cancelled the trade deal after that, and nobody's heard of it since. And they're making excuses now about Russia and things like that, because at that time there was no Ukraine war. So why didn't they sign it then? Because again, they're just looking for excuses. So anyway, Finland right now is they're short of gas. They got the highest unemployment rate in Europe. They have no tourism because it used to be a place where lots of Russians used to come. So they get no tourism in Finland. Lots of people are unemployed. Cities on the border are collapsing because there's no tourism, no money. And the factories are closing because they've got no energy, no oil or gas, no business. And they are basically making demands of China. Can you believe this crap? It's the same thing that Lithuania did a few years ago. And look at their economy. Their economy is absolutely collapsed as well. They think they're some sort of superpower. It's crazy, guys. So Ursula has agreed to send Zelensky 90 billion loan, and she's talking about how much of a good news it is for Europe, and she's really bragging. And you can see from her tweets, she's saying, "Such a good day for Europe. We're giving away $90 billion to Ukraine." This $90 billion, they're not going to see ever again, by the way. She's calling it a loan, but Ukraine will never ever be able to pay it back. Because if Russia continues and they take over Odessa, Kharkiv, and maybe half of Ukraine, how is Ukraine going to make the money to give back to Europe? Impossible. Impossible, guys. And how much money has Europe given to Ukraine? I think already they've given maybe 300, 400 billion, maybe more. Who knows? But yeah, they will never ever be able to pay it back, ever. And if Ukraine basically um, loses the war, collapses, and there's a brand new government in place, a pro-Russian government maybe, and they are extremely hostile to Europe, they're gonna they're gonna basically throw away those agreements. They was like, screw you guys, we're not gonna pay you back. You destroyed our country. Why should we pay you? They can easily, Ukraine can easily do that. And no, these Europeans are just so short-sighted. They just cannot see the bigger picture. I mean, right now there's an energy crunch. With everything that's happening around the world. There's not much oil or gas. Now's the time to wind down the war and start making peace with Russia, opening up the pipelines again, the Nord Stream again, getting gas and oil moving. But no, they don't want to do that. Very, very short term, naive, low IQ kind of thinking guys from the Europeans. And they've always been like that. And I just don't understand why. I thought the Europeans were supposed to be intelligent. It's crazy how these leaders work. So finally, I want to talk about this racist, stereotypical Chinese they have in Hollywood. So this lady on the left, they named her Chin Chow or Chin Chu, I believe, Chin Chow. And in the movie, I have not seen the movie by the way, but I have read a lot of reviews about it. And apparently, I've read a review where the white people in the movie, like Meryl Streep, you see on the right, she refers to her as Chin Chu on the movie. So even though it's spelt Chin Chow, she's calling her Chin Chu in the movie. Apparently, she goes, "Chin Chu, come here." So Chin Chu is like a very racist remark. In the West, when I was growing up in school, if you're like Chinese or you have Asian features, all the other kids used to call Ching Chong and stuff like that. It's basically a racist remark. And that Ching Chong basically sounds too similar to Chin Chu. And this is why, Asians are extremely offended by this. And I think Hollywood has done it on purpose. And if you look at the girl on the left, does she look like a typical Chinese to you? She doesn't. They have basically stereotyped her into thinking all Asians look like her. you know, when it comes to Hollywood, they make Asians look so ugly. They pick the ugliest Asians out. They put glasses on them. They make women dress like men. Look at what she's wearing. She's wearing a man's shirt. So they make women dress like men. They make them look really really ugly. They will never ever put um, that amazing Chinese Olympic winner Wu Geiling. They will never put anyone like her on it because she shows China in too much of a good light. Because she's beautiful, she's successful, she's famous, she's rich, she's everything, all the best, features about being Chinese. She basically shows everything, um, all the best parts about being Chinese. Wu Geiling, you know what I'm talking about, guys. The girl who's been winning all these Olympic gold medals, and she's representing China, not USA. So they will never ever put anybody like her because she's far too pretty for Hollywood, and she would basically put China in such a good light that people are not going to like it. Because when they put Chinese in Hollywood, they make them look really ugly. They make them into really stupid characters, like the character in Hangover. I don't know if you've seen that. That Chinese guy in it. They made him into such a negative, stereotypical guy. And yeah, Hollywood doesn't really show any Chinese in a good light. I don't think I've seen anything. Even like Shang-Chi, they made him look so stupid. You basically have Shang-Chi, and I watched the film by the way, and his own sister kicks him in the balls. I mean, what kind of? I'm not joking, guys. Like, if you haven't seen the movie, I'd recommend watching it. But there's a part in the movie where his own sister basically kicks him in the balls really hard, and he's on the floor crying. I mean, what kind of sister does that to her brother? Oh my God, that film was awful, guys. But yeah, it's just another Hollywood racist trash. Don't watch the film, by the way. It's Devils Wear Prada 2. Yeah, I'm not going to waste my time. Anyway, that's all for now, guys. Take care for now. See you soon.